Hello everyone and welcome. You know how it goes, new year, new version of Odoo, new talk about the reports, and here I am. So for those of you who wouldn't know me yet, I'm Olivier. I am the team leader of the team in charge of developing the reports at Odoo, and I'm here today to talk about the present, so what we did for Odoo 19. I'm just selecting a few things that might be technically interesting to mention, and of course the future. So the goal here, we're going to talk about philosophy, today. I want you to have really the spirit in which we are developing the reports, making them become, well, more powerful, make more things, and I will give all the hints I can for the next version, of course. I know that's also why you're here. So let's get started with a little bit of context first. Let's just remind everyone what we're talking about. So the current model we are using in Odoo has been introduced 3 years ago with Odoo 16. The idea, if you were there for the talk back at the time, was to have one engine to rule them all. So what does that mean? Basically, we have one generic feature, one generic engine to compute all the reports that handles everything, and that every report of every localization will hence call to compute itself. So that means we had to generalize every kind of little customization, every kind of little filter you could apply on the report to have it available or possibly available everywhere. That being said, the reports are generic, but not always generic. So this engine ensures that we can make exceptions when it is needed, because you don't want, when you do something generic like that, to make it too generic and have something that absolutely has to be entirely rewritten every time you have a little exception somewhere that you don't know how to handle. So you can do exceptions, but those exceptions stay rare and integrate into the bigger framework. That's how it works. And again, it impacts every localization. So everything I'm saying today, of course, is true for every localization in Odoo, every report, anywhere. So that being said, what is the first philosophy element we have when developing a new version like that, and when thinking what would be the best features to put in it? Well, first of all, we want better integration, because of course the goal of Odoo is to be usable by people. This normally you're aware, and for this we want the software to really fit the workflow they have to follow. Even better, we want the software to simplify the workflow and even encourage better, more efficient workflows. So what did we do on that side for this version? First thing I want to mention is the annotations. So if you're familiar with the report in previous versions, you know that we had a feature to annotate the lines in your report. When do you want to do that? Typically, you have a balance sheet, you want to annotate the state of some account, and you're going to note something on it saying, yeah, but this, it looks a bit sus, but it's not actually, because there is this, so you justify it there. And you do that for audit reasons. The thing is, with the previous versions, when you wanted to do that, you were actually not annotating the account. I mean, from a technical point of view. You were annotating the line containing the account, the representation in the report of the account. So that meant if you were on different reports, the same account for the same data displayed for the same reasons would not have the same annotation because you were on different reports. It's not the case anymore. What we do now, for better integration, again, in the audit flows, which we improved a lot in Odoo 19, we introduced a lot of features around that. If you haven't checked the talk that Laura gave yesterday, I really encourage you to have a look, because that is fairly interesting. We use the chatter of the account. So basically now, when you're on the report, you want to annotate an account, you have this little bubble there that you can click on, and so it will trigger this panel on the side with a chatter. You know it, it's like on every model of Odoo nearly. And when you log a note in it or send a message in it, it will appear here, tell you which period you're annotating, and essentially this will stay in the chatter. So that means if you are, so here on the trial balance, you annotate the report, you open the same period for the balance sheet, and you have a look at the same account, you will see the same annotation because it is logged on the account. You will also see it in the form view of the account, of course, in the chatter. And as I was telling you, we introduced a lot of new flows for auditing in Odoo 19. So we have the audit working files. In these files, we have this view that allows checking the balances of your account. And you can see that we have a column taking the last annotation that was made for the account. And again, it's taken from what was done in the chatter, in the reports. And so we gather everything at the same place. And if I click the line here, I will also have this lateral chatter that will open, and I can make my annotation from there. So we want to integrate everything better. But of course, if you have watched the talks a little bit already, and if you're aware of what we've done in 19, you might be like, but there is something bigger, right, for integration in 19 than just the annotations. Yeah, sure, but this one you hadn't heard of it yet, so I was starting with this one. Because there are the returns as well. So what we did this year is essentially we introduced this mechanism of having like a to-do list for accounting. So typically to submit documents, submit reports, submit tax reports, you have all your deadlines of your accounting in that screen. And of course, when you click on one of them, so here for tax return to submit, you will have different checks that will ensure consistency, that will make sure that you're not submitting something completely wrong, or at least that so you always can decide to bypass the checks. But I mean, you're aware that something seems sus from Odoo and that you should have a look. And of course, you can do the tax closing as usual, but from that screen. So I'm not going to take too much time on that. There were 2 magnificent talks this morning about that. Go check them out. They are on YouTube, one technical, one functional. Be my guest. That being said, we can say a few things about the returns for the future of the reports, because actually those new objects are a real game changer for the way we even just envision the way people will interact with the reports. Those new objects, they are not the center of the flows that they implement. Before you had to do everything from the report all the time. Now it's everything is managed from the return, and the goal is to help the user. So we introduced a bunch of wizards telling you, like, for example, you want to submit your VAT report in Belgium. Now you have this submission wizard telling you, okay, you need to log on to this website, you need to download this file with a button to get it, and you need to go to that tab on the website to submit it there. So it's helping the user achieve the result. We want to take the user much more by the hands for flows like that, because hey, we want to help people. That's what Odoo is all about. So tax closings, file exports, all that is centered on the returns now. Web services as well. So if you have some API somewhere that you need to connect to submit your report or fetch data that you want to inject in your accounting, like we have that in India, for example, the returns are again the center of that flow. So that means in the future, we will use them more and more for this kind of integration. It's over to have an endless list of buttons on top of the report, and you have to guess what they do and how to use them and when to use them. So that means those buttons you had on the reports now tend to disappear, and that instead we will implement return. And I say we will, because we did that already in version 19, but there is still plenty of things we want to add, plenty of things we want to transform for the future. So it's only the beginning, and I really want to insist on that. That being said, rest assured, if you have such buttons on the report that you really want to keep because you did it as a customization for some customers, they're really attached to it for whatever reason, the technical support for this feature stays the same, so we did not remove that feature from the reports. You can still keep that. The same code will work the same in 19, and I can tell you 20 and 21 as well, without any doubt. So, what else do we want? We want something intuitive. Yes, I'm saying we want something intuitive for accounting. Mark my words. How do you configure a tax report line in Odoo? Well, let's have a look at Odoo 18. You have this line that I want to make for a tax report, okay? I'm creating the line, I'm creating an expression on it, and I'm giving it this formula. What does that do in Odoo 18? It will create 2 tags, right? Plus 42 here, because it's the number I gave to my formula, and minus 42. I can then use those tags on some tags here. So here I just create a random tags and I say, okay, I want the tax amount to impact minus 42. So what I'm trying to say functionally here is I want the tax amount from that tax to impact negatively the line 42 of my tax declaration, right? Then I make some invoice with that tax. Here is the journal entry that is generated. I see my tax amount, I see my tag on it, minus 42. I guess it's fine, right? How do you know what Odoo is computing with that and what will appear in the report from just that line if I don't tell you that it will impact negatively the report? Let's do the computation. Huh? The balance of the line, debit minus credit, is minus 21. Okay, this must be the starting point. I have a negative tag, so I guess I need to do minus 21, right? So it gives 21. What then? Because it's supposed to put minus 21 in the report, not 21, right? To handle this, it's for implementation reasons that I'm not going to detail now, we had this magic field here, invert tags. So if you have debugged a bunch of accountings between, or when did we introduce that, between V13 and 18, you've heard about that one. That thing here is just telling me I need to do an additional minus on the amount that I already computed from the balance and the sign of the tag. So here I had 21, I'm doing an additional minus, so it's minus 21. And that's what ends up being in the report. So normally, I lost half of you already saying that, and normally you're like, what the hell is this impossible to understand mechanism? That's exactly my point, actually. And I can see in your eyes that's exactly what you're thinking about. And so we changed that in Odoo 19. We made everything more simple, because we realized that essentially we were just losing people with that thing. So what we did, you declare the same line, okay? There is a slight difference in the way you declare them, but I will show you afterwards. So here, formula 42. This will create one tag. So we remove the sign from the tag. So when I set up my tags, I'm just saying it impacts line 42 of my report, right? When I create the invoice, I will just have a tag without sign here, and I don't need the invert tags field anymore. Here, I just need to say, okay, what is the balance of my line? It's minus 21. Okay, that goes into line 42. And that's it. So you might be like, yeah, but what if I want the line, the tax amount, to impact positively the report line? Because here it's very convenient. It's the sign of the balance, so it's easy. Sure. That's the little change in the way you define your formula. So the report line, when you define formula on the expression, you're going to tell, if you want something positive, you're going to tell minus 42. It means I want to take minus the balance of the lines touched by these tags. And that's it. So everything is more readable, everything is more intuitive, and with that, we hope people will understand a little better what Odoo does with their taxes without having to ask the support or some consultant what is going on. Now, we also want to achieve snappiness. This, you have heard Anthony talk about it multiple times over the years, right? We want Odoo to react instantly, or as instantly as possible when you click on something. We want things to be super reactive. So what did we do on that side with the reports this year? Actually, let's first talk about last year. So you remember those things on top of the reports, and you know them. That's what we call the filters in the Odoo slang that we use to talk about the reports, okay? Those filters, before Odoo 18, they used to be something synchronous. So that means when you open the report and you already knew you wanted to set a bunch of filters in the report, you had to set a filter, wait for the report to load entirely, then set a second filter, wait for the report to load entirely, and so on and so forth. So in 18, what we did is that we said it's stupid, because the reports on bigger databases, it can take seconds to open. So basically here, we were making everything super slow and super frustrating, like the level of frustration you have when you try to explain to your grandma how to do something on her computer. You know, it should take a few seconds, but somehow it's been half an hour that nothing is moving on the screen and everything seems just slow. Well, that's exactly the feeling we gave to users, and of course we don't want that. So what we did in Odoo 18 is that we made the filters asynchronous. So basically, you didn't have to wait for the report to load to set the next filter. So that was already a huge improvement, of course, because we are frustrating people way less. But we actually forgot something big. It's the first time you open the report. The first time you open the report in 18, you still have to wait for everything to load before being able to set any filter. Well, not anymore in 19. I know it's a small improvement, but believe me, you will feel it. Now, I want to have a bigger word about performance in general, now that we're at it. Because I told you, a big report can take multiple seconds. It's true. And I think it is time to improve performance of our reporting engine and to put more focus on that. So this is kind of a promise I'm making for the next version. Next year, you can come to me and be like, are you sure you did it? You will see. We will increase the performance of the reports. We have a bunch of use cases that we know about that could perform better. So I'm not talking about anything catastrophic as it is now, of course, otherwise we would fix it. But there are some things that could be changed deep within the engine, and that would, I hope, tremendously improve the performance. So to give you a little anecdote about that, in 19, we revamped 2 of our standard reports, the trial balance and the general ledger, to use custom engine. So we rewrote them, and they work differently. I'm not getting into the specifics, but they are more powerful than before. The thing is, we also wanted to rewrite the partner ledger this year. We did that, so the developer did the job. It was well made, no problem with that. But when we tested it on a bigger database, just to make sure that the performance were roughly equivalent, because the goal was not to improve them there, just make the report more powerful, we realized that it was 5 times slower. And we're like, what the hell is going on? We opened it, we analyzed it, of course. I was clearly expecting something in the SQL query. I was clearly expecting something, yeah, there must be some technicality, something with the indexing that, because of the things we changed in the query, is just ruining the perf. Not at all. The query runs super quickly. What was taking time is that this report was falling into a niche case that was just doing a lot of, not useless, but for this case, we ended up not using it, computation in Python. And so we had that huge time, seconds, that were taken just to do Python computation accessing keys in dictionaries. This is the reason why we didn't merge this partner ledger in 19. And I can tell you that we know what is going on with that. It requires a bit of rewriting, but we are definitely going to do it. And that is just an example. We know of some useless complexity, or at least no, I find it useless, that the reports are still using. I'm talking about prefix groups, load more. Those features, if you're familiar with them, it's, you know, when you expand a line, you have multiple sublines to display, and we just want to restrict the number of sublines that we're showing, just for performance of the browsers, because if you try displaying thousands of lines in a web browser, the web browser does not like that. We implemented those, they work fine, sure, but they induce additional complexity in the engines and in the computation that prevents us doing some optimizations. I think it's time to move forward with that, and those 2 things, you can expect them to work differently in the next version. I'm thinking about something that would replace them entirely, make things more simple, and eventually, and when I say eventually, it's for V20 definitely, allow better optimizations, allow, the next point, batching of the group by computations, and essentially would run less query that would compute more things more efficiently. We will make none of the use cases. The model, as I told you, has been there for 3 years. It's time we use the data we have. So this is my personal pledge for V20, better performance for the reports, you will see. And that will be the final word for my talk today. I just want to emphasize that in the room today there are a bunch of people of my team. This is their work, so please give them a round of applause, because they really deserved it. And it's time for the Q&A. You have the QR code, you have the link, and we will answer the questions. Hello.
Thank you, Olivier. Hello. So we'll give you some time to watch your questions. There's a few coming.
I can see that. So much suspense. I hope I'll be able to answer. Just imagine.
They're long questions.
Wow.
Really
it's reporting, it's complex.
Okay, so first one. Did you change NGI in TB for AI chat to pull info from prompts?
Which one?
The yellow one.
AI chat pull info from prompts. No. So we didn't do anything in the reports for AI integration. Very honestly, because AI is not at all the part of Odoo I work on. I don't know if it works today to fetch data from the report directly. It could, because technically it's just a view, it's just data being displayed in the browser, so it depends how it works. I recommend asking the AI team about that one, actually. And if you feel like there is a subject after telling them, you can still come to the accounting booth and discuss with us. We can do things if it's interesting, why not?
Okay. Year to date? Year to date, Je sais.
Ah,
Ok.
attends. Tu fais
Ok,
French.
genre, tu comprends son sur la course.
Non, j'ai pas celle-là.
Okay. Will it be possible to add columns with non-computed info? For example, a date or a due date from a journal item.
This is a long-going topic. It's not possible in 19. To tell you everything about that thing, we have a branch trying to achieve that. I'm just not sure about the implementation. So we need to refine it a little more. Frankly, I would like it to work because that's a feedback we have a lot even from our in-house consultants in Odoo, that they want just to add one column. It seems stupid. I mean, you just want a date and you're already doing all these computations with the move lines. You're showing the move lines in the report. So that should work easily. The thing is, the engines are more complex than that, and the computation that takes place behind the scenes is very complicated because of the generic engine and because of this powerful machine that can be called everywhere. And so I'm not sure it can work, but we are going to try to make it work, and we are already trying. So that's the best I can say for now. I cannot promise it, but if it works, it will be in V20. At least we will have settled the subject for V20, that's for sure.
Okay. The wizard have a pay button. Seems that the only thing it make is marked paid. Is that
So,
yeah, is that right?
I guess we're talking about the wizard, the payment wizard for the returns. So indeed, this payment wizard is just there to tell you, okay, you want to pay. You have, depending on the country, so I'll take Belgium as an example because Belgium is, of course, the country where by default we have integrated the best because we know it perfectly. So in Belgium, this payment wizard displays a QR code so that you can pay directly. So indeed, technically speaking, it's only marking the returns as being paid, but it's helping you doing the operation. And the other option is to just send that QR code. So it's for fiduciaries. You can send that directly to the customer to tell them, okay, now you need to pay your VAT statement. It's the moment. And then you will just send the QR code like this. So it's a bit more than just marking it as paid. But indeed, the point is not to generate entries with the payment of the VAT returns here. It's the bank reconciliation that we do that.
Okay. If I want to learn the accounting report engine from scratch as a developer, where should I start?
Haha. Well, that's a good question. You can ask me. That works. No, seriously, there is some documentation on odoo.com first. I will not say it's exhaustive, but it's already giving you the key objects, the key explanation. If you need to have someone, who could that be, explaining that to you, I did a bunch of talks over the last editions of Odoo Experience. 2 years ago, I did one about the customization of accounting reports in Python or just with the UI. Those talks, so 2 talks like that. Those talks are still pretty much relevant today. The model didn't change, so you can have a look at them. There's also the talk from V16, one engine to rule them all. This one as well is still relevant. It just explains the model in more details, and if you come from previous versions of Odoo and are used to things like financial reports, the old tax report engine or accounting reports, it might still be worth to have a look at it, to just have a more, I would say, yeah, like past-oriented explanation of how it works today. And of course, examples in the code. There are plenty of examples in the code of how the reports work. Take the simplest ones first, the tax reports, balance sheet, P&L, and then you can see, I would say, what are the custom things that are added to them. I would go this way, yeah, really.
Okay. Do you plan to change the customization possibility to make it more user-friendly?
It's something that is on the table. So on that side, nothing is really decided yet. But definitely, like typically, yesterday I had people coming to me with questions on consolidation flows and multi-company, multi-currency, and so well, they wanted some special way of rendering their report to compare data in different currencies. And I told them there is an easy way to do that. You just need to use a horizontal group and 5 minutes with just the interface to do that on the test DB to show them, okay? And 5 minutes because I was talking, it's actually less than that. And indeed, they were like, yeah, but how could we be aware of that feature? Yes, it's a niche thing, it's a bit hidden. and I think we could make it better. So there are at the very least, a few options that are starting to become a bit common to use for advanced cases that we should make more obvious. So on that side, we will probably do something. On the configuration of the report itself, the writing of the formula, all that, I'm less sure, because it's very advanced, and so it's always a matter of priority. Do we eventually want to do that? Yes. Is it something we absolutely want to do for the next version? I'm not sure. But in the future, yes, this is something we want to consider, or at least make things easier to configure for people that are not directly coding the thing and would like to understand what's going on from the UI directly.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, where can we meet you to ask the remaining questions?
Just here, at the exit of the room. Otherwise, there is the accounting booth just there, and I will probably be there for the rest of the day, so and tomorrow as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Olivier.
Thank you very much. Thank you.